Good evening, I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Lauren McCoy. A group of school nurses in Jefferson Parish say they're not being fairly compensated, and the school district says it's tied to a recent change in state policy.
Yes, David Jones reports the nurses questioned the superintendent during his first town hall of the academic year.
But we started on a teacher salary, 2-year teacher salary. So therefore, the nurses coming in are making more money than the nurses that exist right now.
During a JP Schools town hall, school nurses from across the district came to show solidarity and ask questions as they fight for higher pay for current nurses.
We're having to train these new nurses and cover schools because we do have several nurses that have left the department. So we're having to pick up the slack.
The Louisiana State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education voted to remove the state's Department of Education from the certification process for school nurses. A Department of Education spokesperson saying, quote, "The state does not determine school nurse pay. In general, with school system employees overall, pay is determined at the local level." Prior to the August 1st rule change, school nurses would have to have an ancillary certificate, meaning a specific certificate to work at a school. Now, they only need to be certified by the Louisiana Board of Nursing. The State Department of Education no longer needs to verify license status and employment history.
They're on a higher step. Well, we started at step 2 because we had the ancillary. They're starting at whatever step, how many ever years they have as a nurse, they're jumping up to that step.
Superintendent Dr. James Gray told the nurses the rule change just took effect. The district would need to evaluate data on nurse employment district-wide and hold meetings with nurses to determine the best course forward.
We just don't put Band-Aids on kids. We have catheterizations, we have cystic fibrosis, we have seizures, we check in medication every day. Fair compensation is what we want.
Gray promised the nurses tonight that he would investigate the matter. He emphasized due to this rule change, this is likely a statewide issue and not confined to Jefferson Parish. Lee?